In 1989, the American science fiction film Communion was released. The film follows Whitley Strieber, played by Christopher Walken, as a successful family man plagued by strange and frightening dreams. In the movie, we see Strieber eventually come full circle and realize the truth. He has been abducted by aliens his entire life. While Strieber's case is well known, what's less known is the extent of the alien abductions in the Hudson Valley area during the 1980s. While many happened in 1983 and 1984, UFO reports continued throughout the decade and even into present day. It's not clear how many occurred or why, but there were hundreds, maybe thousands of reports of UFOs seen around the area, while skeptics quickly attributed the sightings to a group of pilots flying in a V formation and tricking many people. The fact remains, many unexplainable sightings and events happened. For example, several security guards witnessed a 900-foot UFO over Indian nuclear power plant in June 1984. In addition to all the sightings, many alien encounters and abductions were reported as well. Many of these cases are covered in the book Night Siege, the Hudson Valley UFO Sightings, co-authored by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, Mr. Bob Pratt, and Philip Abrogno. In this episode, we will dive into one of the cases examined by Abrogno, as well as briefly discuss the Hudson Valley UFO sightings and the flawed thinking about this event. In late June 1987, around 10 p.m., a woman who wished to remain anonymous was lying down in her bed, getting ready to sleep. Suddenly, the woman felt a sense of dread, as if someone or something was watching her. She sensed it, but saw no one. She then heard a voice speak in her head, and it said, "We have come for you. You will not be hurt." The woman realized at this point she was paralyzed and couldn't move her body. The voice in her head was like nothing she had ever experienced. She couldn't speak or scream, but she could move her eyes. The woman was divorced, and her 17-year-old daughter was away at her ex-husband's. As she moved her eyes in the doorway, she could see in the dimly lit hall that there were 3 beings lined up in a single file line. The first being strangely seemed to be trying to get in the room. It was as if something was blocking it, and the woman could see the being press something against the doorway to allow them to enter. As they came in, the woman was terrified. She could make out more details on the beings. They were around 5 feet tall, with long arms. They had large heads and huge eyes. They didn't talk, but communicated with each other telepathically, and the woman could hear buzzing noises in her head. Next, the entities approached the bed, and the leader went to the right-hand side of it. Another alien went to her left, and one remained at the foot of the bed. The one on the left took a tube of something like cotton and began pushing it up against her nostril. The woman felt horrific pain and passed out. The next day, she woke up around 8 a.m. with a pounding headache. She went to the bathroom, and both sides of her nostrils were bleeding. She felt like she had something in her nose, and her nose was extremely swollen. She hoped that what had happened to her was a dream, but it wasn't adding up. Not only was her nose in terrible pain, but she had rashes on her body too. What happened next, though, would truly shock the woman. When her daughter returned home that night, the woman started telling the story to her daughter. However, before she could even finish, the daughter started trembling and saying that last night around the same time, she and her dad had an extraterrestrial experience. They were driving near Croton Falls, New York, when a boomerang-shaped UFO started following them. The father and daughter would experience around 30 minutes of missing time that night. On July 2nd, 1987, the woman would contact UFO investigator Philip Abrogno about the event. He would document and interview the witnesses. Several weeks later, the woman would call Philip once again. She went on to say the experience happened again, even more strange. It happened in almost the exact same way when her daughter was away. This case is one of many that happened during what became to be known as the Hudson Valley UFO sightings, or the Westchester Boomerang. While many of the sightings were due to misidentification, we see skeptics do what they do all too often: attribute all cases to be misidentification if one or several are found to be not credible. We see this with other phenomena as well, most notably crop circles. In 1991, 2 men alleged to have hoaxed many of the circles. Doug Bauer and his friend Dave Charlie admitted to a reporter, Graham Bro, that in the late 1970s they had begun using planks of wood with ropes attached to each end to stamp circles in crops by holding the ropes in their hands and pressing the planks underfoot. After this came out, all crop circles were ruled as pranks, although many questions still remain. For example, how could the 2 men in one night bend the stalls, weave them together, and have the time to create such intricate patterns? Also, how were they able to anatomically alter the stem of the crops? The science tells us in many of these circles, the stems have been lengthened. This allowed the stem to be bent, and then they are woven together in intricate patterns. In addition, the crops continue to remain alive and grow. If men were stomping on the crops and creating the circles, how come we are seeing all this unexplainable phenomena? In sum, like the crop circle phenomena, the Hudson Valley UFO sightings appear to be a combination of legit and illegitimate cases. In the case prior discussed, the woman's case appears to be very stereotypical of many alien abductions. She was paralyzed, which we often see, and it appears the beings put some sort of alien implant in her. There's been a number of cases of people finding implants in their body, and there's lots of speculation about what their purpose is. Like many, this woman appears to be getting repeatedly abducted. This is not uncommon, and the fact her entire family is probably being taken is not that unusual as well. It's not clear what happened to this woman and whether she still had visitations. Hopefully, though, the visitation stopped and she was able to move on with her life.